Judge ruled DACA illegal, and the judge's order did not affect those already covered by the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals programs, but it does regulate hundreds of thousands of young immigrants to an uncertain future. Of course, as you know, DACA has allowed thousands of young people who were brought to the United States as children or overstayed visas to live, work, and remain in the country. Many of the recipients, commonly known as Dreamers, have now been in the U.S. for a decade or even longer in some cases. So what's next? Well, here to help us understand is immigration attorney Naim Sakhia. Welcome, sir. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so an uncertain road ahead for DACA recipients. I mean, when has it ever been certain for them, though? Let's be real. But what's next? I assume a federal appeals court?
That is true. The judge basically, in the opinion, said that the Congress is the place where these kind of programs should originate, and it is asking the government to either go through the Administrative Procedures Act in order to create this kind of program, or go through the legislative act of the Congress. While that is going on the judicial side, it is obviously likely that this ruling will be appealed, and it will end up in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and then after that, it's possible that it will get to the Supreme Court. However, in the meantime, Biden administration is trying to pass or put immigration provisions in the budget reconciliation bill, and if it gets through, where it requires only 51 votes in the Senate as compared to 60 in the regular process, then probably this ruling or this litigation will become moot at that time.
I understand. Okay, so again, uncertainty possibly for a long time. I mean, depending what happens there with that bill moving forward. And then that's kind of just always been the case for these Dreamers ever since Barack Obama tried to take action on this. It's kind of been like just kicking the can down the road, so to speak. I mean, there's been just covering it on this show. I mean, numerous times I've talked to numerous Dreamers, for example, and it's always something coming up, whether it's that being struck down, good news, bad news. It seems to be going back and forth constantly.
Yeah, that is very unfortunate. See, the origin of this program, which was in 2012, was essentially after then President Obama was not able to get bipartisan support for an Immigration Reform Act. And this was created in order to provide some reprieve to those young people who the society, the Democrats, and obviously the beneficiaries, they think that they have been unfairly treated because they were brought in as young people. They did not come into the U.S. on their own free will, and they were not guilty, of any kind of immigration violation, except that they were here without their own volition. So they were given a reprieve, a temporary reprieve, and the hope was that something more permanent will happen sooner rather than later. Fast forward 9 years, we are still in the same situation. So there is real hope now that this problem will get taken care of once for all.
And many of these so-called Dreamers, they were very young, as you mentioned there, so that probably means that they don't even remember their home country. Their home country to them, as far as they're concerned, is the United States, because maybe they were brought here as literal babies.
Exactly. And see, the thing is, they are highly educated, very productive members of the society. There were roughly 800,000 people who benefited from this program. And from an economic point of view and from the benefit of the society, we have to look at it not just as something which is benefiting these individuals. It is also benefiting the U.S. businesses where they work, U.S. housing market, the money which is spent in the U.S. economy. So if all of a sudden you want to make 800,000 people unproductive in the society, what kind of impact it will have? So from a public policy point of view also, it has to be looked at in such a way that we find a solution which is good for all people involved in this, not just Dreamers, but we have to think of their impact, their contribution in the overall economy as well.
Sure. In terms of immigration as a whole, I guess we're talking about the contribution to society, not just Dreamers. But yes, you have a good point. And Mr. Sakhia, as an immigration attorney, I think I can ask you this question, if I can just kind of take a more pessimistic look here, just like a worst case scenario thing. I mean, if DACA were to fall, what would that mean all of a sudden for the hundreds of thousands, you said up to 800,000 people, of these Dreamers? What would happen then? Is ICE suddenly obliged to go out and deport people, round people up? Is that how it works?
No, actually the opinion which was issued last Friday expressly prohibit that.
Oh.
It basically says that people who are already in the program should continue to receive the benefit. And it also says that new applications can be received but cannot be adjudicated till the time either an appeals court makes a ruling, or a Supreme Court makes a ruling, or Congress takes an action, or the executive branch takes an action under the Administrative Procedures Act. And number three, the opinion specifically says that this opinion is not an order for any adverse action to be taken against those individuals who are in the program. So no, as far as the worst case scenario goes, what will happen is new applications will not be entertained. They will be accepted for processing, but they will not be adjudicated till the time it goes through the whole process of appeals and all that. But people who are already in the program will continue to receive the benefit, and there will not be any kind of adverse action taken, at least under this opinion. Things can change, obviously, so we'll keep an eye on that.
Of course, and we'll be keeping a close eye on what happens in Congress in the following weeks and months, as well as Biden tries to sneak this part of that bill in. Immigration attorney Naim Sakhia, thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate it. Thanks for the insight, sir.
Thank you for having me.
We'll be right back.
Thank you.